Connecting to cloud server. Diksha Singh, and I'm presenting my presentation on the topic of Ice Age. Basically, the topic I'm going to cover in the whole presentation is about how we came to find about the Ice Age concept, like how the concept came to be on the light, and what are the possible reasons that Ice Age has been happened, what are the causes of it, and what are the evidences of the Ice Age that is found mainly in Indian continent, and we'll cover one line for other world too. Now coming to the first slide, an ice age. Basically, let's before starting an ice age, I'll explain what is an glacier. Glacier is basically nothing but an ice that is moving. So ice age is a long period of reduction in the temperature of the Earth's surface and atmosphere, resulting in the presence or expansion of a continental and polar ice sheets and alpine glaciers. It is a very long period of a time where the Earth's overall temperature, or say a global temperature, goes very negatively, and the Earth has been covered with a lot of glaciers, and these sometimes a very long period, but sometimes an ice sheet grows and fall back, grows and fall back. So these the warmer period which extends between two glacial period is known as the interglacials or interstitials. Now coming to the how concept came to be on the table, like how we decided that something like could have happened in the uh, paleo times. Early geologists were what they did was they noticed these boulders of a size which is uncommon for the area in which they are present. So it leads them to question about how they came to be on that place. The only answers were that they are getting transported through river, and the size of this boulder is very high, as you can see in this image. The size of boulder is very big, so it makes an almost impossible for a river to carry such a vast size of a boulder. Now in early 1800, there was a scientist, Jean de Charpentier. He observed this glacial extent and glacial retreat in his back village, and he made some observations, and he did say that these glaciers kind of move, so there might be have been a possible a time in the earth that these glaciers must have moved long forward, like towards equator maybe. Now sorry, can you see this part? Can you see this upper part of the slide? There was a famous scientist. He's one of the pioneer scientists in this ice age field, named Louis Agassiz. He lived in Switzerland, and he was quite famous for his observation on the ice age. He found some scratches, as you can see in this slide. He found some scratches on the boulders, and he proposed the idea of that maybe a thick sheet of ice must have moved from here, causing such abrasions marks in the boulders. Now what he did next, he went on a visit to Scotland and did an aerial view of this particular area, and he observed these parallel lines, as you can see in the pic, these parallel lines. And it made him question that what would be the cause of these parallel lines. He made a point that this might be possible because of this river which is flowing towards the center of the valley, but of a river having such a high amount of water to have a shoreline that it eroded here and also eroded here, and also eroded here. The river has to be a vast amount of water in it, and he found no else evidence of this point that a river must have a such vast amount of a water. So what actually happened in this area was the a glacier from this side, let's consider this side as a north. A glacier from this side came and dammed the valley, which results in this water, this water level increased up, and this shoreline formed by this erosional process, and when the glacier melted away, this water level reached to its original height. Along with these erosional evidences, we have also some fossils discovery which indicate that the climate in the past must have been a colder because of, as you can see in the third picture, the animals has the animal has a lot of a fur in it, and it has been found in Siberia under the thick ice sheet, which led to scientists to believe that there must have been colder for having this kind of a fur. Otherwise, this kind of animals having this amount of a fur would not have survived summer or heat. They would not have survived it. And these are the beetles which are found in mostly Arctic region, but they found these organisms in Canada, in North America, which also was a key evidence for leading scientists to this conclusion that there must have been a colder environment in the past. And now, along with these biological studies, we have some chemical studies. What scientists did in 1960s, it they showed that if ice caps are bigger in size, then the amount of a heavy oxygen in water will be greater, means the temperature will be lower. And if polar ice caps are smaller in size, the amount of heavy oxygen in the sea will be lesser, which is eventually because of the evaporation of a O18 isotope of the oxygen. Now, coming to the microscopic animals, this is a foraminifera. It's a very important microscopic, it's a very important microfossil in this field of a paleoclimate. uh, its shell basically tells about the composition. We use a calcium or magnesium ratio to find about at which time it has been deposited, and what would be the sea surface temperature at the time that has been deposited, which is important to know about the sea surface temperature. It indicates whether temperature has been higher or the temperature has been lower. Now, the ice archive, what scientists started, then scientists started drilling in the polar ice cap region, and they found these drilled ice caps, and they found air bubbles trapped in them. They dated that ice cores, and they found the amount of a methane gas in air bubbles, and by finding out that, they also found out the amount of methane that it would have been at at that point of a time. Moving on, what would be the reason of these on and off what would be the reason this increase and decrease of temperature? The scientist Milankovitch, he presented two key ideas basically. First one was northern summer, that how much sunlight the northern latitude receives during summer, and the sunlight variation. This amount of a sunlight varies based on the changes of Earth's orbit and rotation. Albedo is nothing, just the reflectivity of the surface of the earth. If the sunlight, like in the pic one, if the sunlight hits the ground, the amount of heat that is being absorbed will be greater than the in pic two, because ice is a white in color and it will reflect most of the sunlight, making the surface more cooler, hence forming it more ice and making the temperature more colder. And this feedback is called positive feedback. For positive feedback, like sunlight hits the glacier or ice, the sunlight gets reflected, making the environment more colder. Now, there is, as you can see that in the northern part of the this peak or the earth, as compared to the southern part, there is more ice, and in southern part there is less ice as compared to the first one. It is mainly because of there are more continents on the northern side, and as compared to the southern part. Land has a lower heat capacity than water, which also means water doesn't change temperature as easily as land does, which means the fluctuation of an ice sheet in this area would be much less as compared to the fluctuation of ice sheet in this area. Now, coming to the Arctic Circle. Arctic Circle is basically this area of our earth. During winter, what happens that a land above Arctic Circle is covered in a complete darkness almost for almost 3 to 6 months, and there is a lot of ice formed. And if the melting of an ice in the summer would be less, it will eventually lead to a colder period of a time. If more of the ice melted, then it will probably be temperature would be less colder. Now, sunlight changes. Milankovitch also proposed his idea about that sunlight in the last over hundreds and thousands of years, sunlight has amount of sunlight that is being received by Earth has been shifted plus minus 15%, and it is a very vast amount. He also quoted that this can end ice ages and probably this can start ice ages, and the amount of sunlight changes basically depends upon three key factors, and which also affects the climatic patterns. The three key factors are eccentricity, axial tilt, and precision. Eccentricity is nothing basically. If Earth is revolving around the sun, we uh, we think that this revolutionary path is a circle, but it is not a circle. It is more of an ellipse. Eccentricity basically defines that sun, the path around the sun, about how much it is not ellipse, and how much it differs from being a circle. The measure of this shape's deviation from being a circle is called eccentricity, and the deviations changes take place over 100,000 years. Now, obliquity means the tilt axis of the earth, and for a reference I have taken this example of Mars, because Mars has a very high range of a tilt axis. Right now the earth's tilt axis is around 23.5 degree, and a complete cycle of the axial tilt lasts about for 41,000 years, mean from going minimum to maximum, then again to back to minimum tilt. And if the axial tilt is high, that is theta is equals to uh, 40 degree. If the axial tilt is high, then there will be high summer, high sun, sorry, there will be high sun, which means the ice in this part will get in, will get melt more, and it will cause a high humidity, which means there could be not any chance of a coming ice age, while if axial tilt is less, that is theta is equals to 10 degree, there would be the area covered by the insolation of the sun would be less in this area, which means the ice will form more, will probably leading to the much colder summer or climate, I would say. Now, precision is a very complicated topic yet for the scientist. What happens if this is the axial tilt we are measuring from the vertical? Let's forget the vertical. This axial tilt also moves from here, and it will complete a whole circle. Will complete back to its original position. It takes a 26,000 years for this to form. Like, this is our tilt axis, and it will eventually move here, from here to here to here, and it will completely form a whole circle. Basically this is basically a wobbling of the earth's tilt axis, and it happens mainly because of the gravitational forces of a sun and moon. Precision as well as tilting, they are the reasons why the area near the poles gets very long nights and very long days at certain times of the year. Precision to get it once again, at current position, the our north star, like say our north star is P, like the axis in which in deep universe the earth is pointing towards a star P. At after some years it will point towards a different star. It will point towards a different star, let's say Q. This is how by pointing to different stars we can find out that this axis basically moves and complete a whole circle. Now, this is a diagram of the sunlight variation and the temperature of the earth in last some few thousand years. So you can see that the this pink line indicates the temperature, and this blue line indicates the solar radiations received by the northern pole of the earth. The sunlight received by the earth at this point of a time is low, which also can see that temperature is also low. So this equivalence that the amount of a solar radiation and temperature are highly dependent on each other, and also can see that the amount of a solar radiation received by earth and the temperature is also low here. And you can see that this is our amount of a solar radiation received by earth is high, and the temperature is also high, means the temperature would be more, means the ice will melt more. There would be probably no glacier at that point of a time on the poles. And this is our last ice age basically, where the solar radiance received by the earth is around 420 plus, and the temperature is also very low. Now these are the some of the evidences which are from which we can find out, or that area must have been covered by a thick ice sheet, or there must have been some sea level changes. These are drop stone, as you can see. This is bedding of a different size, and this is a boulder which has been dropped by the glacier, and it got lithified, as it was deposited. And uh, this is a rock having a different size. It's a poorly sorted rock, which also indicates that this once must have been a deposit of a glacier deposit. And these are cyclothers, which are formed by the alternating of sea level, means sea level rose, sea level goes down, and these beds will continuously go above the sea level and below the sea level, and these alternating sequence indicates the sea level changes. And sometimes coal seams are also found in this area. Now coming to the major ice ages have happened quite frequently in the history of the earth, but there has been less evidences about it. And there has been such a short period of a time that it is hard to actually quite yet found that from where it has been. So we consider only five major ice ages to study. This one happened, let's go to this time scale. This happened in Paleoproterozoic, around this time, known as Huronian glaciation. And the next one happened in Cryogenian around this time quite. And at this time there was not quite a significant life on the earth. The Our next one happened in no, next one actually happened somewhere around 450 to 420, this Ordovician and Silurian. And the next one happened in 350. Where is 350? The next one happened in this. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and our fifth ice ages is quite recent. It is from 2.5 to 1.1, which is also known as the Pleistocene glaciation or a Quaternary glaciation. Let's go over the timeline once again. First one is Paleoproterozoic, happened in 2400 MA to 2100 MA. Next is the Cryogene. These are basically the time period, and these are how we known those ice ages. The name which we have given to them. This one is a Cryogenian. It's divided in two part basically. This one is Tucian, and this one is something as I can't recall right now. Something from M. And this happened in Ordovician to Silurian, named as Andean and Saharian, because his first evidence has been found in somewhere in Africa. And this happened from 450 to 420 MA. And this happened in Permo-Carboniferous, names and Karo Ice found in the Karu Basin, basically. That's why it's named as Karu Ice Age, happened in 350 to 260 MA. And the last one is Quaternary, happened in Pleistocene, and this one is a recent ice age, ended just 11,500 years ago. like Precambrian divided into Paleoproterozoic, Neoproterozoic, and this is our Huronian glaciation. It's the first glaciation to ever been recorded on the history of the Earth, and the Cryogenians are divided into two parts. First is Trucian, and second is Maronian. Now coming to the very first glaciation that has been recorded, this is the oldest known glaciation period, and it happened around this time 2400 to 2100, and it was discovered in Lake Huron in Ontario in Canada basically. And it evidences are also found in many parts, but the first but firstly reported in this lake. And because the rocks of that age are rare, it is the intensity or global extent is hardly defined. The probable causes that it happened because uh, the all the greenhouse gases here CH4 and 2 OCS, all these greenhouse gases were getting oxidized because of rising oxygen level due to cyanobacteria, because Huronian glaciation was followed by a event, this is known as the great oxygenation event, where the amount of oxygen uh, in the global sea level, or atmosphere should I say, it rose, it causing all the methane gas, for causing all the greenhouse gases to oxidize, and ultimately co2 was co2 was too less of amount to keep the earth from freezing. Hence this glaciation was caused. This is the probable cause, and there was two hypotheses which has been proposed at this point of a time. First is snowball hypothesis, and next one will cover in coming slides. It's a slush ball hypothesis. uh, this is our great oxygenation event, and this is our Huronian glaciation. Now this is okay. Now this is the evidences of the Huronian ice age in the Indian stratigraphy. It is found in the Dharwar rocks, Kaldur conglomerate in South India, and other evidences includes the area in Michigan, Black Hills, Canadian Northern Territories, basins of South Africa and Australia. Now coming to the cryogenian glaciation. In the Neoproterozoic time, the Earth went through number of a glaciation. There were possibly a 3 to 4 glaciation, and the hypothesis that came around to be on the light was snowball hypothesis, which means that the whole Earth was covered by a 1 2 kilometer thick ice. And of this glaciation, the Stuchian glaciation was the most significant, where the Maronian was a shorter but still a worldwide glaciation. Other cryogenian glaciation were probably small and not global as compared to Maronian and Stuchian glaciation. Hence, we are not going to cover that part. Now coming to the Stuchian glaciation, which happened around 715 MA, and this Maronian, which was a shorter glaciation compared to the first one, it happened around 635 MA. The hypothesis which came around to be snowball and a slush ball. A snowball in snowball, scientists said that Earth was completely covered with ice, and this event lasted million of years. And this glaciation ended because there was an atmospheric CO2 buildup, because there was many volcanic activity leading to the building of CO2, which is a greenhouse gas. Now, the slush ball hypothesis, continents were glaciated to equator, but there was an open ocean. Events were cyclic, which means glaciers grew and they retreated. Now, since most of the scientists count on the snowball Earth, here is the diagrammatic representation about how it could have been. These are the growing ice caps, and these little bit gases you can see, these are the volcanic outgassing as the earth was still hot, as earth was still in its starting ages, and there was a continuous activity like this. Now, since because of albedo, the most of the light that was being received by the earth was reflected back, which leads to the cooler temperature. The slowly the ice is starting build up, and at this point of a time, the whole earth is covered from the ice, and there was no carbon dioxide cycle in the oceans. And after a while, which is also a theory, that after a while this CO2 builds up, which release in the hothouse earth, and it leads to the deglaciation of the earth at that point of a time. During the Maronian glaciation, the characteristic glacial deposits indicate that the Earth suffered one of the most severe ice ages in its history. Severe in the terms of the extent of the glacier, not in the terms of the extinction or like loss of a life, because at that point of a time there hardly been a life. The only organism at that point of a time were present were cyanobacteria or some anaerobic bacteria. So it the severe in the sense that ice sheet covered most of the earth towards the equator. Glaciers extended and contracted in a series of prismatic bursts, possibly reaching as far as the equator, as we saw in the pic. The melting of the snowball earth is associated with the greenhouse warming due to the accumulation of a high levels of a carbon dioxide that is being released from the volcanic activity that was still happening on the earth in the atmosphere. The late Proterozoic Earth was a very different world form than the one we know today. Plants and animals had not yet appeared on land, and only relatively primitive life inhabited in the sea. To be just a point to be noted that at that point of a time, there was no life on the continent. All of the life that was present was still in the ocean, and there was no vegetation to store the CO2 or to store the coming insolation as in the form of a heat, which is possibly also the reason that snowball happened. And this is a pic of a Strusian glaciation. This is just a diagrammatic view and artistic view what could have been the earth's uh, condition at that point of a time. Now, the question arises that why a snowball happened during late Proterozoic, as sun has the same age as of Earth. The sun was pretty has output pretty much lower than of today. The continent at that time were clustered at a low latitudes, a configuration that has not occurred since then. All the continents you can see these are at a south pole, and the tilt which decides basically, which is also a key factor in deciding the temperature. The tilt was high, and albedo bounced back, heat back in space, thereby ice become more important. This is also a same reason. Oceans in tropical region absorb and store solar energy and tend to warm the earth. But when continents are present at low latitudes, they reflect sunlight, and this would have been especially true of the barren continents of the late Proterozoic. Barren in the sense having no vegetation. All the continents, as you can see, are confined to this area. This is the time of Astrusian. Now, these are the some global distribution of the deposits and some BIF deposits at the Astrusian glaciation time. Uh, Nothing to go on in that. Just key point to note that it has been distributed all over the world. There has not been a continent that is being left out, which also indicates that all these continents at one point of a time they were together. Now, younger cryogenian, that is Maronian glacial deposits, this is more widespread than the Strusian one, and this may be due to the growth of a continental crust with the time, because plate tectonics was still happening at that time. They providing a large substrate for extensive ice sheets and increasing the preservation potential of their deposits. Now, these are some of the evidences of the glaciation. This is a dropstone in Nambian sediments transported by iceberg, fell when ice melted. This is how dropstones are formed. And this one is a poorly sorted, again a sedimentary rock, which also indicate the glaciation of at that point of a time. Now, the next one is Andean and Saharan glaciation, which happened in Ordovician and Silurian time from 450 MA to 420 MA, and the glaciation global extent was from Arabia, Sahara, Africa, and Amazon of Brazil, Andes of West South America. And the center of a glaciation appears to have migrated through time, that from Ordovician, that was started in Sahara maybe, and moved towards South America in the Silurian time, and in Brazil and Andes in coming time. Continental ice sheets were developed in Africa and eastern Brazil, while alpine glaciers means the glaciers in the polar regions which have a thick ice sheet, or they are like on mountains. That is what alpine glacier is. And in the Andes region, the two continents were joined as a part of a Gondwana, which was located over the South Pole. The there's not a much of evidence of this ice age that has been found till date, and uh, there is no evidence of this ice age in the Indian stratigraphic time or Indian stratigraphy. Next is the Karu or a Paparmo Carboniferous Ice Age. Uh, Karu Ice Age is named on the Karu Basin of South Africa, where evidence of this ice age was first clearly identified. The evidence was nothing, just the few rocks known as stellites, which are one of the glacial deposits. These are poorly sorted, and they are basically formed when uh, these are loads of a sediment that gets dropped out when the glaciers melt away. And there's not a single glaciation period time. Instead, the permocarboniferous ice age has been divided into uh, three at least three little periods of glaciation. First glaciation was from late Devonian to earliest Carboniferous, and next one is glaciation 2, which is in Carboniferous, and next one is glaciation third, that is latest Carboniferous to Permian. Now, this is the diagram of the supercontinent at the time of a Permo-Carboniferous, which is also known as a Pangea, and this stretched from south to north pole. And this is the possible extent of the ice sheet that has happened in the Permo-Carboniferous glaciation. Ice sheet spread on northward at least 40-degree south latitude. Now coming to the distribution. In late Devonian time, it is thought that, let's go over the pic. The glaciation basically started from South America. The, episode 1 has been found from here. Then the in glaciation 2 deposits are found from somewhere here. Now these all these dark patches are glacial 3 deposits, and this arrow indicates basically the movement or the growth of the ice sheet. And this is how it follows, like started from South America to Africa, and this one is Antarctica, and moving towards Australia. And this is our India basically. It covers at least this part of the India. Now let's go to the backslide. In the what happened in late Devonian, that started from South America. Next, in late Mississippian time, it was at its maximum. Now in coming time, that is in Carboniferous to early Permian, it it moved over South Africa, Antarctica, Australia, India, and southern Asia. This continuous shift in glaciation from West Gondwana to central, this is our West Gondwana, This basically this shift indicates that Gondwana was migrating across the South Pole. Now coming to the next slide, the ice sheets were centered over highland that fed into the adjacent basins. Now the major basins include in South America are Tepual, Parana, Chaco Parana, South Grande basins, and in southern Africa it's Karoo, Kalahari basin, and in Antarctica it's Antarctic basin, and India it is Talchir basins of a greater India. At the height of the Permo-Carboniferous glaciation, the amount of water that was locked up in the ice sheet was so much that if it is equivalent to somewhere around 150 to 250 meters of ocean depth. Even if a friction of would have been melted and reaccumulated in glacial interglacial, the resulting changes in sea level would be quite sufficient. The cause of the alternating these warm and cold periods of the Permo-Carboniferous ice age is quite unknown, but scientists has indicated it is astronomical causes or other external pacemaker like this activity of a sun or other planetary bodies. And now this is an important or nice fact: if all the water currently frozen in the Greenland and Antarctic ice caps were returned to the ocean, sea level would rise by 60 meters, more than enough to drown a coastal swamp. And now this is plate tectonics at different times of the earth in Mississippian time. These are this is how continents look like, clustered all over the South Pole and together. In Pennsylvanian side, we can see that this is Laurasia part, which is getting migrated towards the north side, and in early Permian, this is already here. Now, the evidences of Permo-Carboniferous glaciation in the Indian stratigraphy, the Talchi series of the Gondwana system in Odisha, they are the proof of the glaciation during that period of a times, and there are boulders which are found in the Talchi series. They are same as those in Shimla, Hazara, and Salt ranges, and the same kind of boulders are also found in Rajputana in Malani in Jodhpur state, and they are known as a Bap or a Pokhran beds. They are also considered as one of the evidences of the Permo-Carboniferous glaciation. Now, a very recent glaciation in the history, Pleistocene glaciation. It is also known as the Quaternary glaciation, and this is also was not a single glaciation. It happened in a different in very different period of a time, or in a very short period of a time. They are divided by warm periods also. Now coming to the its time range, it happened during 2.58 ma to 11.7 ma, 1.1 ma, which means it ended just 11,000 years ago. During this period, the ice sheet expanded from Antarctica and Greenland, and fluctuating ice sheets occurred elsewhere. For example, Laurentide ice sheet. We'll see what is Laurentide ice sheet in a further slide. The Pleistocene geological records give evidences of a 20 cycle of advancing and a retreating continental glaciers, which comes to the point that it was not a single glaciation period, hence it was divided by a periodic glaciation. Now, the distribution of the a very Pleistocene glaciation is much of it happened in the northern hemisphere, and the 30% of the earth's surface was glaciated, and the large portions of Europe, North America, South America, including Greenland, and all of Antarctica, and some of the section of Asia were entirely covered by eyes. In let's come to this slide. This is a Laurentide sheet, and this is a Accordion sheet, and this is the condition of 18,000 years before present. this is the peak of the Wisconsin glaciation, and there were two massive ice sheet at at that point of a time. First one is a Laurentide, and second is a Caledonian. Now, at that point of a time, there was so much was water taken up as ice that the global sea level dropped approximately 120%, and these ice sheet were around 3,900 meters thick. So just imagine the massive amount of water that has been held up by these ice sheets. Now, this is the situation in present. This Laurentide ice sheet has retreated way back, and it is now confined to this much only. This is what happens if the global temperature continuously rise. Now, what are the possible causes? The possible causes is the continental positions, ocean circulation, solar energy fluctuations, and the Earth orbital cycle. Basically, Earth orbital cycle is a very mysterious but the key factor in the climate, and these are the probably the condition which lead to the Pleistocene glaciation. Now, some scientists have also mentioned greenhouse gases that they were a partial region of a global temperature swings between ice ages and interglacial ice glacial periods. Now, extensive evidence also shows that a number of periods of a growth and a retreat of a continental glaciers occur during ice ages called glaciers and interglacial. We have covered that part. Now, the entire Pleistocene and a Holocene period starting from 2.58 MA is referred to as an ice age because at least one permanent large ice sheet, that is Antarctica, has existed continuously. So right now we are in our interglacial period. Our our glacial period ended around 11,700 years ago, and right now at this point of a time we are in an interglacial period. Now, this is one of the key question that my professor has asked me, and I kind of managed to find it, that what is the reason that the earth to periodically cycle in and cycle out of these ice ages. Well, that is not my answer, but I managed to find it somehow, which is pretty convincible to my professor. We are pretty confident that the carbon balance between the atmosphere and ocean must have changed, but we don't know quite know how or why. Now, the Pleistocene glaciation in the Indian stratigraphic evidences are many because at that point of a time, India has already collided with the Asian plate, and there is a vast ranges of a Himalaya which was there at that point of a time, and that is probably one of the reason why we found glacial evidences in Himalayas. There are many U-shaped valley, or you may have heard about the some of the lakes. Uh, these are the reason. These are the evidences of a glaciation action. The U-shaped valley which you're talking about here is found in Suketi. Basically, glaciers are such massive thing that they do not form V valley. When they go through a valley, they form a surface like this. So if you see a broad U-shaped valley, then it is definitely made by a glacier. And if you do not see ice somewhere around the area, then at some point of a time that place must have been covered by a thick amount of ice sheet, or the glacier must have passed through that area. And the large blocks and boulders are normally seen in different parts of the Himalayas. Basically, large blocks and boulders, such vast size of a boulders, a river does not have such amount of a capacity to carry such boulders in its initial stages. Uh, that's why these are the evidences of the glacier action in the Himalayas. And in the Kashmir, uh, deglaciation started around 18,000 years before present, and the Kareva deposits of Kashmir, they are found in the Kashmir Valley, and they are alternate deposits like ice deposits, interglacial deposits, ice deposit, and they are such formed. Hence, they also propose the evidences of Pleistocene glaciation. They are fine, implacable, buff-colored sands and laminated clays. Now, glaciation also led to the formation of a number of glacial lakes in different parts of the Himalaya. such as Kailash Kund, the Sansar Basin near Batole, the Gulmarg Basin, the Sheshnag, the Konsalmarg. These are some of the example of the glacial lakes, and the impact of a glaciation led to sudden and large-scale reduction of the shivalic mammals. That's it for my presentation. If anyone